So, dear devotees, you're welcome to today's SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM class. Today is the 5th of the month of April, the year 2023. We're continuing our reading from SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, second canto, first chapter. We're treating today text number 34 to 36. It's a combination of 3 verses. And it's going to be dealt with by none other than our own host, who is today the speaker, His Grace Sriman Sahadeva Prabhu, who needs no any introduction. Is the mouthpiece of the HARE KRISHNA Africa platform. So there is no need for introduction. So Sahadeva Prabhu, thank you very much for coming on board to speak today. I hope all of the students have carry their biro and pen, because when his professor speaks, then the student have to take a notes, or else it will get lost within the course of the discussion. So without taking much of your time, Sadi, if you're ready, I will put the verse on the screen, and then you can start.
Hare Krishna. Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we'll begin.
Okay, good. So here we go. Verse 34.
Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swamini Namine. Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Ashtatatmane Shri Guru Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Namine. Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Shatarani. Hare Krishna, and thank you all for being here today. As Salika Prabhu, our host, mentioned, somehow I am speaking today. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tatu Jayamudirayat Nashtaprayashu Apatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttamash Bhakti Bhavati Naitiki. So we're reading from SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, Canto 2, Chapter 1, text number 34, 35, 36. 34, 35 have no purport, so we go to the next one, which will be 36 with a purport. So I'll just read the Sanskrit slokas from 34 to 36. Eshasya kishan vidur ambu vahan vasastu sandhyam kuru varya bhumnaha avyaktam mahuridayam manascha Sachandra Maha Sarvavikarakushaha. Translation. O best amongst the Kurus, the clouds which carry water are the hairs on his body. So on his head means Krishna's head. O best amongst the Kurus, the clouds which carry water are the hairs on the head of Krishna, on his head. The terminations of days or nights are his dress, Krishna's dress. And the supreme cause of material creation is Krishna's intelligence, his intelligence. Krishna's mind is the moon, the reservoir of all changes. Next. Vijnana Shaktim Mahima Mananti Sarvatmanuntaha Karanam Giritram Ashwaswatare Ustragajana Kani Sarve Mregaha Pashabahashro Nideshe. Translation. Can you scroll up, please? The principle of matter, which is the Mahat Tattva, is the consciousness of the omnipresent Lord, as asserted by the experts, and the Rudradev is his ego. The horse, mule, camel, and elephant are his nails, and the wild animals and all quadrupeds are situated in the belt zone of the Lord. Text 36. Vayam setat vyakaranam vichitram manurmanisha manujo nivasaha gandharva vidyadara charanapsaraha swarasmritir ashurani kaviryaha. Vayam setat vyakaranam vichitram manurmanisha manujo nivasaha Gandharva vidyadara charanapsaraha swara smritir asuranika viryaha. Vayam setat vyakaranam vichitram manurmanisha manikyo nivasaha. Gandharva vidyadara charanapsaraha swara smritir asuranika viryaha. Word for word translation. Vayam see, varieties of birds. Tat vyakaranam, vocables. Vichitram, artistic. Manuhu, the father of mankind. Manisa, thoughts. Manuja, mankind, the sons of Manu. Nivasaha, residence. Gandharva, the human beings named Gandharvas. Vidyadara, the Vidyadharas. Charana, the Charanas. Apsara, the angels. Swara, musical rhythm. Smritihi, remembrance. Asura Anika, the demoniac soldiers. Variyaha, prowess. Translation and purport by Jagat Guru Param Guru A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Varieties of birds are indications of his masterful artistic sense. Man, the father of mankind, is the emblem of his standard intelligence, and humanity is his residence. The celestial species of human beings, like the Gandharvas, Vidyadharas, Charanas, and angels, all represent his musical rhythm, and the demoniac soldiers are representations of his wonderful prowess. Purport. The aesthetic sense of the Lord is manifested in the artistic, colorful creation of varieties of birds like the peacock, parrot, and the cuckoo. The celestial species of human beings like the Gandharvas and Vidyadharas can sing wonderfully and can entice even the minds of the heavenly demigods. Their musical rhythm represents the musical sense of the Lord. How then can he be impersonal? His musical taste, artistic sense, and standard intelligence, which is never fallible, are different signs of his supreme personality. The Manu Samhita is the standard law book for humanity, and every human being is advised to follow this great book of social knowledge. Human society is the residential quarters for the Lord. This means that the human beings is meant for God realization and association with God. This life is a chance for the conditioned soul to regain his eternal God consciousness and thus fulfill the mission of life. Maharaj Prahlad, Prahlad Maharaj, is the right type of representative of the Lord in the family of Asuras. None of the living beings is away from the Lord's gigantic body. Each and everyone has, each and everyone has a particular duty in relation to the supreme body. Disruption in the matter of discharging the specific duty assigned to each and every living being is the cause of disharmony between one living being and another. But when the relation is re-established in relation with the Supreme Lord, there is complete unity between all living beings, even up to the limit of the wild animals and human society. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu displayed this living unity in the jungle of Madhya Pradesh, where even the tigers, elephants, and many other ferocious animals perfectly cooperated in glorifying the Supreme Lord. That is the way to peace and amity all over the world. Om Ajana Timbrandasya Jana Jana Shalakaya Chakshur on Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadama Yam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Pada Kamalan Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sakratam Saragunantam Bintam Sadvitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Bintam Cha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shri Mati Bhakti Tilta Swamin Itinamine Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shritatmane Shri Kura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Ti Tatinamine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastatya Dishatarini Vanchakal Patarubhyas Chakre Pasindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadaya Krishna Prema Pratayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Koratvishe Namaha Nama Brahmanya Devyago Brahmana Hityacha Jagatitaya Krishna Govindaya Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadatahara Shri Vasadi Gura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So thank you all for being here. So we're discussing SRIMAD Bhagavatam. This chapter is chapter 2, Canto 2, chapter 1. Is entitled The Beginning Steps of God Realization. Like the first step in God realization. And the first step in God realization is to have the view, the understanding, and the conception that everything we see, everything we feel, everything we touch, everything we can imagine is the absolute, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, if you heard me right, I said everything we see, touch, feel, we can ever imagine is a representation of the absolute. And then I said the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So who or what does all these different things we see, think, and imagine of belong to or coming from? It comes from a person, and that person is called God, or is called Krishna, or is called Jehovah, or is called Yahweh, or is called Jah. Whichever name, whatever culture, tradition that we may find ourselves in, that we refer God to represents Krishna. For us as Hare Krishna practitioners, we refer to God, the supreme absolute being, as God or Krishna. That does not make Krishna any different from the God the Muslims worship, the Christians worship, the Rastafarians worship, or any form of worship of the supremest being is the same being. But here we are being informed from the pages of SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM that all these different aspects of creation, of cosmos that we see, they all represent God. Now, English language has so much limitations when it comes to spirituality, because the Englishman was not originally very much adept into spirituality. Therefore, their language has so much limitation. Just like in any culture and any tradition, depending on what we always do in that particular culture, language is formed around what we do. So because in English originally, lots of people were, even though worshiping God, they knew about the concept of God, but because they were not very much deep into worshiping, serving, and relating with God, they lack so much words to express this supreme being. Therefore, in Sanskrit, where the beings or the culture was nothing but spirituality, worship of God, they have so much amazing words describing the absolute personality. And therefore, when such words are being translated into different languages, there is some sort of handicap. We cannot find the exact words to explain. So the best option is to use the closest word possible to explain the original Sanskrit words. But the name, it is said that God has no particular name. He is named based on his activities. Therefore, Allah is the whole being. So there are so many powers, so many people have so much powers, but one who has the most power beyond any power, his power is beyond everyone else's powers, and no one's power is anywhere close to his. That being is Allah, is God, is Krishna. Now, how do we know how powerful God is? I mean, the Islamic tradition beautifully address Krishna, or the supreme being, as the most powerful being, which is absolutely true. Now, how much do we know about the powerful nature of Krishna, or of God, or of Allah? How do we know? Now, these things are very beautifully described in the scriptures, just like we are reading. It is said that the trees, the vegetation we see represented the bodily hair of Krishna. The bodily hair of Krishna. Okay. It's also describing here that the moon is the mind of Krishna. In Sanskrit, the moon is called Chandra. In Latin, the moon is called Luna. And English is It's a very beautiful language in the sense that they are very expert in borrowing words from different languages. So in English, we also use lunar to mean the moon or the months. And so we just read that the lunar or the Chandra or the moon represents the mind of the Lord. And that is why the moon has so much influence over each and every human being's minds. If you've ever worked in a hospital facility, you realize that on every full moon night, lots of the patients go crazy. Now, some scientists have tried to do a research as to how much the moon has influence over living entities' minds. Depending on which studies you followed, some studies indicate that the moon has no relationship with the human mind. And some studies clearly, evidentially show that the moon has a very corresponding effect on human beings' minds. And that is actually the truth. And that is why when somebody is mad, medically or scientifically, that person is addressed as lunatic, which means that the moon is being misaligned. Lunacy comes from the word lunar, the moon. And so all these things, rocks, rivers, the moon, the sun, they all represent Krishna. There is a story about a guru who wanted to test his many disciples as to who is the eligible candidate to become the successor after he leaves his body. And therefore, he gave each and the disciples an assignment that they all go to a very remote area where there is nobody. And so many people, so many of the disciples went to various places where it was so quiet, it was so dark, there was nobody, no sound, nothing. And then they came back and reported. But there was one disciple who had not returned for a very long time. Later on, he returned. And he returned without performing the action. And he was asked by the spiritual master in the presence of all the disciples, what kept you so long? Everybody went, came back. You went and never came back until now. And you came back with the mission unaccomplished. You did not do what I asked you to do. Then he answered, he says, my dear Lord, my dear Gurudev, I tried. I went anywhere, everywhere, where I could not find anybody's presence. But I could not find any spot in the entire world where there was no presence of anybody. He says, how come? He says, yes, because in the day I was hiding somewhere, there was nobody, but the sun was up there in the sky, glaringly looking at me. So how can I hide away from the sun? And at night, the sun was no more to be seen in the sky. And I thought, okay, the sun is no more here, so I can do what I have to do. Then I looked up and I saw the moon. So the spiritual master understood it. This disciple has really understood the concept that there is no way one can hide away from God. There is a popular saying that you can run, but you cannot hide. And so sometimes when one wants to commit sin, one thinks about a place where there is so much silence. Krishna explains Of all secrets, I am silence. So when we want to do something in secrecy and there is a silence in the environment, that silence represents God. So if someone is really intelligent, how can anyone ever think that he can do something and hide it away from God? It's impossible. Because all these things we see around us, the sun, the moon, the stars, the mountains, the rivers, even the earth that we walk on, the land that we walk on, they all represent God. So in that sense, how can anyone do anything and hide it away from God? It's impossible. Now, the other time we were talking about 8,400,000 species of beings that God has created. And we are reading from this particular text that out of the 8,400,000 species, 400,000 species are human beings. The rest are like birds, aquatics, vegetation, and quadrupeds. Quadrupeds were mentioned in the purport Asha Prabhupada gave so beautifully. So the Gandharvas, the angels, they are all in a very broad sense considered humans, but there are different categories of human beings. So they are the higher and the finer forms of human beings. And it is said that it is very, very rare, because when we look at the different species of beings created by God, human beings are the lowest of all the species. So when we have this body, we have the opportunity to use this human form, whether it is on this Earth planet or on a different planet, to use this form, which is considered from all the scriptures as the bridge to cross from this material world to the spiritual world and cross over to the spiritual world. If we do not use this body, this bridge to cross over to the spiritual world, it's a waste of life. We've wasted our lives. And we see in our earthly planet how so many human beings are wasting their lives. So many people are wasting their lives because so many people are not interested in worship of God. They're not interested. Some do not even want to hear the name of God. And there are some also who always talk about God but do nothing to serve the Lord. Because they think that just by externally professing to be worshiping God is good enough. Yesterday, we were discussing from our BHAGAVATAM class. Oh, no, sorry. I was in a different class. It is a Chaitanya Charitamrita class we were having. That God does not need anything from anybody. God is called Atmaram. He is very much blissful within himself. He does not need anything outside of himself to be happy. So whether we serve him, whether we worship him, whether we do something for him, whether we glorify his name, he doesn't need it. But as a divine and a very kind and merciful Father, he wants to see his children do the right thing. And the right thing for a son or a daughter is to have respect to his or her parents. And that is why in every scripture, it is said that one has to honor his parents. If one does not honor his parents, then your life is doomed. So Krishna, who does not need anything from us, but being a very wonderful, kind, merciful father, he wants to see all his children do the right thing. And what is the right thing? Right thing is to acknowledge that I am nothing without you. Srila Prabhupada explained in the purport, we just read it, that in reality, nobody is a controller in this world. Like we all live in different countries in this world, and whichever country we live in, there is a president who is the head of the entire people in that entire country. But that particular president, who is the most powerful person, who is the most controller, is actually not a true controller in the sense that he or she is also being controlled. Nobody wants to grow old, but we're all growing old. Nobody wants to fall sick, but we all fall sick. Nobody wants to die, but we're all going to die. Some are going to die in a very glorious way. Some are going to die in a very shameful way. Some are going to die in a very painful way. Some are going to die in so many forms. But whether it is painful, glorious, inglorious, we're all going to die. We do not want to die. Even if you went to the most struggling person and told him, my dear, you're suffering, let me kill you, and we end everything, it's going to say no. So nobody wants to die, but we are being forced to die. We are all being forced to die. That means that there is a supreme controller beyond us. Beyond us. So for us to get out of this world, which is an embodiment of suffering, the whole material creation is a place of suffering. Everybody is suffering. And sometimes we ask, why is it that we suffer so much? Yes. How can you be very close to fire and complaining there is so much heat? It means you do not understand the characteristics of fire. The characteristics of fire is that to produce heat. And so when we are very close to the fire and we are feeling the heat, that is the expectation. So as long as we live in this material world, whether it is on this Earth planet, Mars, Jupiter, Venus, the Sun planet, wherever, suffering is there. There is only one place where there is no suffering. And that is the abode of God, which is the spiritual world. Which is the spiritual world. And that is what is called Vaikunta. Vai means without. Kunta means anxieties or miseries. So Vaikunta means a world where there are no miseries. This world, which is Kunta, means a place of miseries. So everybody is suffering, either in our body or in our minds. Whether we like it or not, we're going to be sick. Whether we like it or not, our minds are going to bother us, going to give us so much botheration. How am I going to pay my son's school fees? How am I going to put my house in order? How am I going to make sure that nothing bad happens to my children? All these are mental anxieties, miseries that we all have. If one does not experience miseries, it means that person is mad, is lunatic. Mm-hmm. Only lunatics do not experience suffering. They do not experience suffering because what will help them experience suffering is faulty. That is the mind. So those whose minds are faulty, they do not experience real suffering. Now, there are two types of people who do not experience suffering in this world as everybody else feels. One is those who are medically, mentally diseased. And there are those who, by dint of their devotion, dedication to God, they do not suffer in this material world like everybody else suffers. And so I think I've been saying this a couple times, especially on this platform. His Holiness Srila Bhaktipad some time ago used to say that the karmis, those who are not Hare Krishna devotees, they see devotees wearing bed sheet, putting on some marks on their forehead like I have on my forehead. They lead some tuft of hair at the back of their head, and they live a very simple life. Most of them are very lanky, slim people. And all they do is to sing and dance on the streets of their cities and towns. And they do not eat meat, fish, eggs. They do not go to the bars. They do not go to disco. They do not do all these things. They're suffering. So they think that devotees are suffering. And devotees also see the karmis and they think these people are suffering. Look at them. The other day, myself, Govinda Prabhu, Arichakra, we were having some discussion and we were recalling some things that used to take place, and I believe still takes place in our motherland in Africa, whereby some people who eat meat will also eat the stool of that particular animal. And just imagine a human being eating the stool of an animal. But those eating the stool of that particular animal, they're enjoying it. They're loving it. Why are they enjoying it? Why do they like it? For a normal human being, you wouldn't like to, excuse me to say, eat stool. But why is it that some people enjoy eating the stool of animals? Salika Prabhu, if you can go to Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 15, and let's look at the verses of 12 downwards. Chapter 15. All right, let's do this.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, so chapter 15, verses 12 downwards, Krishna explains that the splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this whole world, comes from me. And the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire are also from me. So this is God, Krishna speaking. I enter into each planet, and by my energy, they stay in orbit. I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. So this is the same thing Krishna was explaining in the original text that we discussed. That the moon, according to agricultural science, tells us that without the moon, no vegetation can grow. So plants actually do not grow during the day. During the day, the vegetation derive their nutrients in the form of the sun for photosynthesis. That's what we learn from biology. Photosynthesis. They tap energy from the sun, and at night they use that, the plants use this energy tapped from the sun during the day, and then the moon, which is the splendor of Krishna, nourishes the growth of the vegetation. So without moon, there is no life of vegetation. And Krishna continues. It says, there are two classes of beings. Text 16, there are two classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every living entity is fallible. And in the spiritual world, every living entity is called infallible. But Krishna is saying that after knowing all these things, whoever knows me, Krishna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without doubting, whoever knows Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharat. So this is Krishna himself speaking. Krishna is revealed to us all who he is, who his nature is. And from him comes the sun, the moon, the galaxies. Everything stays in orbit by his command. And it's amazing, of all the living entities, when we talk of living entities, we're talking about human beings, animals, plants, all these beings. We are all parts and parcels of God. We are all sons and daughters of God. So how come God knows us all? That is what makes God God. That he knows each and single particle of grain of sand. If one visits any ocean, in the ocean, you see so much beautiful sand. And if you pick a scoop of sand, it contains lots of millions and billions of grains of sand. Each grain particle that one picks, God, the Absolute, knows that particular single grain. So that makes God God. The other day we were discussing that there is Lord Brahma, who is the creator of all material things within this universe that we see. And this Brahma also lives for 100 years. 100 years of Lord Brahma in our earthly calculation is 311 trillion years, 40 billion. 311 trillion, 40 billion years. Is it really imaginable? That is how long somebody lives. And for that life of Lord Brahma, it's just simply the exhalation of Lord Vishnu. When Lord Vishnu exhales, that is just the life, the entire life of Lord Brahma. And this Lord Vishnu is a manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So we can just imagine how powerful, how great God is. When God breathes out, there is life. When God breathes in, everything disappears. So all throughout our lives, as we live in, and as our history tells us, years ago, beings that lived way far before us. It is all due to just one exhalation. And God or Lord Vishnu does not say, I'm breathing out and then I hold it. No, it's natural. It's natural breathing pattern. Natural breathing pattern means that you breathe. That's how we breathe normally, the normal pattern. Sometimes if someone is going through some pain, then you may hold your breathing. But this is not God holding his breathing. It's his natural, normal breathing. And that is 311 trillion years, 40 billion of our earthly calculation. This is one example, one of many, many examples of how great God is. So it is said that it is very, very difficult for one to approach God. But God, being so merciful, more generous than we can ever imagine, appeared, adventured himself as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and made it so simple and so accessible to all human beings that if we take up this process of chanting the holy names of God, regardless of where one belongs to, whatever tradition one belongs to, but the mere fact that one glorifies and chants, repeats the holy names of God, slowly, gradually, one will be drawn closer and closer to God and eventually be able to return back home, back to Godhead, where we all originally belong to. Hare Krishna. So if devotees have a question, comment, realizations, please, we may share that. Thank you
very much, Sahadeva Prabhu, for a beautiful question. So, but then before anyone comes up, I've not seen any hand up. I want to ask you a question. You said something which catches my attention. You said when the Lord breathes in, everything is finished. When he breathes out, there's life. Please, can you elaborate a little bit on that? Because my understanding, pre-understanding before now is that even when he breathes in, existence is still there. It's just that this particular universe is winding. So please, could you expand on that?
Well, thank you so much. That's a very beautiful question, which requires some explanation. So again, if one is in this human body, in this material world called Earth planet, and has a little bit of interest in science, one would understand that, or will come to know that we are all different energies. And as an energy, we can never be destroyed. No energy can be destroyed, but energies can be transformed. And that is why in our scriptures, Lord Krishna explained to Arjuna, many lives you and I have lived, but you do not remember, but I remember them all because I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna explains in 220, very famous text in Bhagavad Gita, that for the soul there is neither birth nor death. The soul cannot be withered, it cannot be moistened, it cannot be cut into pieces. So the soul is part and parcel of God, which makes me me, which makes you you. And so when the scriptures say that when God breathes out, everything comes back alive. And when the Lord Vishnu breathes in, everything goes into extinct. Yes, thank you. For the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being. I actually prefer the original English that Srila Prabhupada used, but it's okay. This is also okay. but preferably I tend to lean towards the original translation where Srila Prabhupada says, cannot be cut into pieces. Here it says does not come into being, has not come into being. It's just to modernize the language for today's English speaking person. Lord Krishna explains that for the soul, there is neither birth nor death, nor having once been ever perishes. So when Lord Vishnu breathes out, then everything comes alive. In one sense, we can say manifest. And then when Lord Vishnu breathes in, because when we breathe out, we're breathing out oxygen. When we breathe in, when we breathe in, we breathe in oxygen. When we breathe out, we're breathing out dioxide. Let me see something here. Okay, all right, thank you, Shimara Prabhu. So when we breathe in, we're breathing in oxygen. When we breathe out, we breathe out carbon dioxide, right? And that's why some people, when they are unable to breathe out properly, they have a very bad condition, which sometimes is referred to as sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is a condition whereby some people, when they sleep, they're able to breathe in, but they're unable to breathe out properly. And so they keep more of the oxygen that has been breathed in and mixed with the blood and has to come out. And so if it does not come out properly, it stays in the body. It stays in the body, and it tends to be like a poisonous thing. Carbon dioxide is poisonous, you know. So in the case of Krishna, when Krishna breathes us in, which is breathing in the oxygen, lives, and then breathing out the carbon dioxide. When Krishna breathes in, we enter into the body of Mahavishnu, but that does not mean that we are dead, but we stay in that body as inert, like we are energy that has not been activated. But when Krishna or Lord Vishnu breathes out, then the energy gets activated. So in one sense, an inert matter can be considered dead. But in reality, it is not dead. It is dead because it has not been activated yet. So yes, your question is very important. As living entities and as energies, we never die. We never disappear completely. We just move from one place to another, from one window to another window. It's just like performing a drama. The same person moves from one scene to the other scene and may disguise differently, but it's the same person taking different roles in the same play. Yes, so that is my understanding too. Lord Vishnu breathing out, which is the living entities being manifest, and then breathing in, we all enter into the universal body of Mahavishnu and stay there as inert energies until Lord Vishnu breathes us out again. But again, we can avoid this breathing in and out of Mahavishnu because Mahavishnu is actually doing this. Yes, this is the original translation. For the soul, there is never birth nor death, nor having once been, does he ever cease to be. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, undying, and permeable. He is not slain when the body is slain. Yeah, this is the 72 Macmillan version of the Bhagavad Gita. But it's okay. It's okay because it's just to write in such a way that a modern English-speaking person will understand what Krishna is saying. So I don't know if Salika Prabhu, the answer to your question is okay with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, maybe in the course of the discussions, we can go a little bit more deeper into the subject. The other persons have some questions. So Suman Prabhu said there are two different verses, 220 and 223. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Suman Prabhu, for the reference.
Yeah.
So if there are any questions, comments from the devotees, is everyone scared of Sahadev Prabhu's?
Now, Salika Prabhu, if you may go to, okay, we are treating Canto 2, right? If we go to chapter 2 of Canto 2, chapter 2 of Canto 2, text 37, 2:37. There is something beautiful there. That for us, as living entities, especially as humans, there is nothing lacking for us.
2:32?
2:37.
Okay, sorry, 37.
Yeah. There is nothing lacking for us if we can only take advantage of what has been given to us and just dedicate our lives to God. Okay, those who drink through 2:37. Yeah, 2:37. Okay, I think it's in the purport. Go down. Okay.
What are we looking for?
It is. I think it starts with. Where it says Brahma Samhita 540. I think Brahma Samhita 540. It mentions Brahma Samhita. Prabhupada quotes from Brahma Samhita in the purport. Thereabout.
There's no Brahma Samhita quoted in this purport.
Oh, sorry. I'm getting. It starts with the human necessities of life are fully supplied. The human necessities of life are fully. The human necessities.
Okay,
Here.
This is it.
Yeah, okay. The human necessities of life are fully supplied by the Lord in the shape of food grains, milk, fruit, wood, stone, sugar, silk, jewels, cotton, salt, water, vegetables, etc., in sufficient quantity to feed and care for the human race of the world, as well as the living beings on each and every planet within the universe. Isn't that beautiful? That in each and every planet within the universe, God has supplied anything and everything necessary for the living entities to live comfortably. Just like Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita 3 also, wherein he was talking about when Krishna created the humans, he also said that the humans and the demigods should cooperate with each other, and by their cooperation, there will be nothing lacking. Now the problem is that we are not cooperating. We do not cooperate. We've created divisions in the form of religion, in the form of politics, in the form of race, in the form of tribe. So many, excuse me to say, nonsense. In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by this yagya." So Krishna wants us to be happy. Krishna does not want us to see, does not want to see us suffer. So when someone is suffering, do not think that it is giving so much bliss to Krishna. Krishna wants to see all of us being happy. Then why are we suffering? Because we are not cooperating and we are not following what the Lord wants us to follow. Prabhupada reminded us that as human beings, we all have to try to follow the instructions given by men. We go to Shriman Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna, Dhanavat Pranam. All glories to
Thank you.
Prabhupada, all glories to the Assembly Bodies. Well, it's the verse you just quoted, 310. You
Yes.
remember last time when Maharaj Krishna Kshetra Swami was speaking, he quoted that verse. And I don't know, somebody asked me a question quoting that verse. And I tried, to take his attention to something because somebody took my attention to it also. Okay. And I just thought, I could hear his opinion about that. But since he just said it's Vishnu, so I kept quiet.
Yeah.
But if you look at that verse, if you say that it is Krishna that is saying that the Lord of all creations sent men and demigods with sacrifice to Vishnu. So it's like Vishnu is saying that the Lord of all creations sent men and demigods with sacrifice for Vishnu. I mean, it's like pathology. So somebody pointed out to me that the Lord is saying that the Lord of creations, the material creations, sent both the demigods and humans with sacrifice to Vishnu. So anyway, since that has been playing my mind because what the guy pointed to me, I kind of see some sense in it. So I never had the opportunity to explain this to you all because that day when I asked him the question, I just wanted to have his opinion on that. So, though in the purpose that Prabhupada said, the Lord of all material creations, and he said Vishnu.
Yeah.
So that kind of silenced us. But the person that was making this comment, actually, to be sincere, they are not from the same Sampradaya, but they're also Vaishnavas.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, no, it's Brahmaji that was talking. Yeah, so I just thought maybe Krishna is saying that Brahma asked demigods and humans to go and worship Vishnu. Makes sense. But if we say that Vishnu is saying that men and demigods go and worship Vishnu, it sounds like tautology. Anyway, that's why I asked that.
Thank you for bringing that up because when I also read it without reading the purport, I also thought that it will be Brahmaji. So I put it up here. In the beginning of creation, the Lord of creatures. So when you talk of the Lord of creatures, like I did mention this some part in my discussion today, the secondary creator is Lord Brahma. The primary creator is the Lord himself, but the secondary, which is Lord Brahma. Now, Lord Brahma, if we have to, this is why the other day we were discussing about the species of the human beings, and we were all right. I mean, those who were saying that the demigods, the angels, they are all considered as human beings, they were right. Those who were saying that the devas, the angels, apsaras, gandharvas, they are not considered as humans, they are also right, depending on how we do the categorization. If one studies biology, there is way in biology, these biologists group animals and plants. And so they have like the original, they have the genius, they have I've forgotten all the different names. They have the family, and so it's grouped under different sub sets or subheadings or titles. And so the overall arching divisions or species is that the demigods, the angels, the ghosts, forefathers, enaras, they are all humans because they have the mind, the intelligence, and ego, just like we earthly humans do. And then on our Earth planet also, just by the mere fact of cultural differences and even racial differences, there are all types of species. But here in this particular text, according to the purport, and that is taking it on the face value that this purport has not been tampered with. That is, yeah.
Make me laugh.
We have to put that into consideration because there have been a lot of tampering. And as it is now, personally, as I'm here speaking, I do not know which has been tampered with, which has not been tampered with. But if we should consider this purport to be exactly how Srila Prabhupada wrote it, then the understanding is that this, the Lord of creatures mentioned here, is referred to Lord Vishnu, because now Krishna himself is claiming to be the creator. So we say in another sense that even though Lord Brahma created everything, but physically also, he did not create everything, because he created, for example, Lord Vishnu created Manu. Lord Brahma created Manu. And then from Manu, he created all other human beings. And so we can say or argue that Lord Brahma is not the one who created me sitting here in this body. Me sitting here, this body was actually created by Manu. But we also know that Manu was created by Lord Brahma. Therefore, Lord Brahma can claim that he created me. And if that happens to be the case, then Lord Vishnu, who is the primal creator, can also claim that I am the creator. So I think if someone asks us about such similarly contradictory statement, we may be able to try to explain at which level one wants to see who is claiming to be addressed as the Lord of all creatures. If it is Lord Brahma, it's okay. If it is Lord Vishnu, it's okay. But the most important thing is that be thou happy by this sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving a liberation. That is the most important thing. So whether it was Lord Brahma, it is Lord Vishnu, are we doing that? Are we cooperating? That is the most important thing, I would say. But thank you for bringing that up, because just like I was saying in 220, I like just so many things, like even the Tulsi prayers. I remember when I joined the devotional service, when we used to chant the Tulsi prayers, we used to say Tulsi and Krishna. Now we say Tulsi and Vishnu, which makes no difference, but at the same time makes a difference. So, well, thank you for pointing that out. But if you have something to add to that, Srimad Prabhu, or any devotee, you may do that. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for Sadi for that explanation. The thing is that the understanding of the scriptures are dependent on this one's adhikar. I'm sure during the hermeneutics, you must have seen all of this, and you must have heard about this aspect, because these three factors are there in understanding and assimilating what is Vedic scripture, or any scriptures at all it is, because if someone's, just like if you tell a child from where I am now in Jos, and I tell him that Sahadeva is in a very far place, to that 5-year-old boy, it's far. He will be considering it as if, okay, maybe from here to his friend's house, it's very far. That is his perception of being far, and that's why Prabhupada gave the Mr. Frog's philosophy, who met a frog coming from the ocean, and they start comparing it to the well it has been staying for all long years. So the same thing applies to our understanding of scriptures. And it doesn't really matter whether one is wearing the cloth of a Brahmana, is wearing the cloth of a Shudra, it's a sannyasi cloth, is a guru's cloth. And that is even while the scriptures tells us that there can be Kanisha Guru, can be Madhyama Guru, there can be Uttama Bhakta Guru. So, and the same thing applies into our individual devotional development also. Somebody may be a Bhakta who is practice devotional service after many lifetimes. He just come and finish up. And then we come and say, okay, it's just a Bhakta, but his realization is deep. So, and that's what applies to some of these, our understanding of the scriptures. And then sometimes, if one is not humble enough and sincere, you start thinking maybe somebody is falling down, or is, why is this person that cannot understand this simple thing? It may look so simple, but that person, to him, is a big thing. So yeah. Thank you very much for that explanation. Any other questions or comments from any devotees?
I wanted to say something in addition to that. If you can pull up 3:23:43. I think it's
3:23:43, huh?
Yes, 3:23:43.
3:23:43, 3:23:43, 3:23:43. But this how we learn in the. Did I get it correct?
Yeah, you did. 3:23:43.
No, there's no 43 here. I'm seeing it. Okay, sorry. My illusory eye was just. You know, the system, this internet can make you look so stupid sometimes. Yeah, here we have it.
Let's go to the purport, starting with each planet. Each planet.
Okay.
Okay, let's start. Each here. Yeah. Each planet has its particular climatic influences and particular types of inhabitants, and is completely equipped with everything, including the beauty of the seasons. In the Brahma Samhita 540, it is similarly stated, Vibhuti Binam. On each and every planet, there are different opulences. It cannot be expected that one planet is exactly like another. By God's grace, by nature's law. So this is where I wanted us to draw attention to. Srila Prabhupada is saying, by God's grace, by nature's law, each and every planet is made differently and has different wonderful features. So where at this particular statement, who is Srila Prabhupada referring to? Because for us, we know that nature works under the supervision of Krishna, God. Nature is subservient to Krishna. Nature is Prakriti. Krishna is Purusha. So here, Srila Prabhupada is saying, by God's grace, by nature's law, each and every planet is made differently and has different wonderful features. So Srila Prabhupada is linking nature to Krishna, because in reality, nature is not different from Krishna. So when Krishna says in that 310 about the Lord of creation, it could mean Lord Brahma, who is the Lord of creatures, but at the same time, referring to the source of Lord Brahma and his power to create coming from Lord Vishnu, to link both. So another important thing in this particular verse also is that all human beings are human beings, but they are different because of their planetary residence. So everyone is different based on which planet they find themselves on. So if we are on this planet, our body is specially designed to live on this planet. And that is the more reason why Srila Prabhupada was so very much heavy on scientists claiming to have visited other planets, because you do not have the body suitable to live on that particular planet. It's impossible. And if someone has actually read any book on astral projection, you will come to understand that every planet has a different climatic condition. Every planet has a different climatic condition. And so there is a story about how Krishna was asked by one of his wives, I think it was Rukmini, to bring down the Parijata flower, which Lord Krishna did. Because that Parijata flower is not conducive to grow on this earth planet, but it's conducive on other planets. Even on our earth planet, there are some plants that are considered to be tropical plants. They cannot do well in a temperate zone. And likewise, there are some trees in America here, if you planted them in Ghana, they will not survive. There are some dogs in the US here, if you transferred or transported them to Ghana, they will not survive. It's all due to climatic conditions. And here we read in it that in each and every planet, there are different climatic conditions, but regardless, anything, everything, the beings on each planet need to live, and not just live, but live happily, is already provided. Krishna is so kind and merciful. Anadinidanam Hare Krishna. You may unmute.
Anadinidana Prabhu.
Then the word pronounced. Somebody. Yeah, Prabhu, just a quick one. You said something in regards to madmen. I asked whether they don't feel suffering or something like that. My network is back and front. So I would like to know, does that mean they don't feel pains at all, or they do, but the suffering in general is what they don't feel? I would like you to put a little bit clarification on that, because I've seen madmen which, to me, it's like they were feeling some sort of pains. See, but you and the medical field, you say something in that regard. My network was ups and down, so I couldn't hear you properly. So I would like you to clear this doubt of mine. Ask whether they feel pain at all or they don't. I would like to know that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. We live in this material world, and living in this material world means that it's a world of relativity. There is no absoluteness in this material world. So when we say somebody does not feel pain, it means that the pain tolerance is different from yours and mine. So the pain may be there, but the way I feel it may be different from the way you feel it. In fact, Srila Prabhupada gave an example. There is a video because this topic came up on our platform here, and it also came up in my SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM course I take with the Mayapur Institute of Higher Education. And there is a video which I shared with one of my fellow students. It's like, I think, 30 minutes. Bishop Prabhupada was talking about devotees of the Lord feeling or not feeling pain. So the other time here, Arichakra Prabhu shared a pastime of a friend of his who had to be operated on and refused to take anesthesia. So Srila Prabhupada gives an example of Stalin, the Russian dictator. He said, Srila Prabhupada said he had some sort of problem with his stomach, something, and had to be operated on. And he refused anesthesia. Actually, Srila Prabhupada said he refused chloroform because during those days, that is how it used to be called, chloroform. And even in today's world, some people carry the chloroform. We've been advised several times, like when somebody approaches you with some white powder and blows it over you, you better be careful because it may be chloroform. You'll be put to sleep right away. So this body is a material body. And there are material laws which are all given by the Supreme Lord himself. And therefore, we do not have to go against the laws. So the human body is designed to feel suffering, to feel suffer, to feel pain. So the pure devotees, they feel pain. But their tolerance is different from any conditioned souls. And the way they take the pain is different from each and every one of us. For you and me, generally, we may say, oh Lord, why me? Arichakra Prabhu, those days when he used to preach, he would speak like this. If you say, why me? In effect, you're trying to say, why does it have to be me? It has to be that person. So what is your love to that person? So the pure devotees, when they have pain, they say, yes, thank you, Lord. I could have been put into much worse, much more difficult suffering than what I am now. Now, when we talk of suffering, there are different aspects. I was saying this, there is emotional suffering, there is social suffering or social pain, there is economical pain, there is physiological pain, there is physical pain, there is spiritual pain. If one is a devotee and feels no pain, I said this yesterday, it means that person is not yet a devotee. Because the prime duty of a devotee is to see to it that everybody is gone back home, back to Godhead. Devotees do not want to see people suffering in this material world. So emotionally, psychologically, when people see how people are absorbed in material sense gratification, that should give them pain. And that is why Vasudeva Datta prayed to Lord Chaitanya, let everybody go back to Godhead. Let me alone suffer. I want to see everybody go back home, back to Godhead, and let me suffer. Prahlad Maharaj, even though he was going through suffering, in fact, it is said that Prahlad Maharaj was going through suffering, and when Lord Krishna saw how much suffering that his devotee is being put through, then at that time he appeared. When Haridas Thakur was caned in 22 bazaar, in 22 marketplaces, just one marketplace caning was sufficient for him to die. But he did not die. Krishna intervened. Despite the fact that Krishna intervened, Lord Chaitanya intervened, and the Lord Chaitanya showed his back, that all the marks, I was there picking up. If Lord Krishna, if Lord Chaitanya did not recognize that his pure devotee, Haridas Thakur, was going to face the pains, why would he manifest himself into Haridas Thakur so that he absorbed the pain? That means that as a pure devotee, you can have pain, but from time to time, Krishna intervenes. And the pure devotee also, in fact, there are so many verses, so many quotations, because we were talking about this and I did some research on it, and I have unlimited quotations where Srila Prabhupada emphatically says that the pure devotees, they suffer. They go through pain. And like we were saying the other time, if you think, and I throw this challenge, anyone who thinks that the pure devotees do not go through pain, in the US here, in the heat of the winter season, or in the coldest season, let this person walk on the street without properly dressed as a winter condition dress. We see Srila Prabhupada taking Prabhupada Japa walk with his disciples, and we see how he dresses himself in winter. Feeling pain does not mean that you are no more a pure devotee. Sometimes some of us think that when we say that a pure devotee feels pain, it nullifies his purity. No, it does not. It is just the nature, just like we read, in every planet, a suitable body.
Struggling to go for us.
In every planet, a suitable body is designed for the living entity, for the soul to live on that particular planet. And each and every planet, pain, suffering is there. So the answer to your question is that the pure devotees, they suffer. But the way they take their suffering is different from the way you and I take suffering. We may say, oh Lord, why me? Whereas the pure devotee will say, thank you, Lord, for giving me such a minimal suffering. It could have been worse. Hare Krishna.
SAHADEVA Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, that is on the side of the pure. But I mean, you say something in relation to the madmen. That is what I was referring to.
Oh, yeah.
They said, because of their mind wasn't functioning well, hence they don't feel the suffering. I think I overheard you saying something in that regard. So I would like you to throw a light on it as to whether they feel pains or they don't. That is what I mean. Anyway, thank you for giving me that elaborate answer also.
Okay, thank you. I heard you.
I hope you can hear me well. Okay.
Yeah, can you hear me? It seems you're...
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, your internet was fluctuating, so you were not hearing some things I was saying. But what I was saying is that is what I said when I was trying to answer a question. I said, this world is a world of relativity. That means that a madman, depending on how serious his or her madness is, they feel pain differently. So, for you and me, we will not drink dirty water. But for a particular type of mad person, he will drink that dirty water. For a particular type of a mad person, he will also see that dirty water and will not drink. So there are different categories of madness. But no matter how mad one is, no matter how high one's madness is, if there is certain level of pain one may feel it, but it will not be the same as someone who has no mental problem. There are some people who have pain, and I don't know, there is a pain medicine called fentanyl. This fentanyl is medication, is a social crisis in the US here. Okay, it's a social crisis that US is having because so many people are getting this synthetic fentanyl from Mexico and other parts of the world. And this fentanyl, there is one particular medicine called morphine, which is also prescribed and is being used in hospitals. Like if someone has to go through some sort of surgical procedure, after surgical procedure, you feel so much pain, so you are given morphine. This morphine was actually discovered by a German, and this German person who discovered it named it after the Greek god of sleep called Morpheus. So morphine is derived from the Greek sleep god called Morpheus, because once you are given that medicine, you will be put to sleep. And when you are really, really asleep, deep sleeping, you don't feel external pain. So that is what, but this fentanyl is like 200 times much stronger than this morphine. And so people take it and they become zombies. They don't feel any pain, they don't feel anything. But I've also known some people who even in their body, this fentanyl, there is a pump implanted in their bodies, and they have this fentanyl pump in their bodies, which is designed from time to time, it will eject the medication into the body so that the body will not feel pain. Yet this person is always in pain. So as long as we are in this world, there is always going to be that level of relativity. But at all costs, pain is always going to be there. The way we relate and respond to it is what is going to differ. So depending on how deep one's madness is, there are certain types of pain that that particular mad person may feel or may not feel. I hope that helps. We go to Srimad Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
So, Vara Prabhu, please kindly unmute.
Yeah.
We cannot hear you. Network.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. So actually, I wanted to contribute on the part of the pain of the mad person. The part he really wanted to understand. Actually, that example that you cited, if I can remember, maybe in another place, Prabhupada used the example of madman about feeling pain or not. But that example, if I can remember, Srila Prabhupada used the example of both madman and a devotee to be the only happy people on this world. He said they're the only happy people. So about pain, I don't know whether Prabhupada used that example, but nonetheless, the example can still stand on 2 points. One is that usually those we call mad are no longer in their body. Those mad people you see on the street, they are ghosts. And a ghost knows that he's not that body, he has only hijacked a body to use. So he's a realized person. It's a ghost using a human body. So he doesn't care where, because the suffering of a ghost is that he wants to eat, he wants to sleep, but he has no body to enjoy these bodily comforts. So when the ghost hijacked a human body,
he will use it anyhow. He can eat anything, he can drink anything, he can sleep anywhere, because this is what is being deprived of for a long time. So usually those we call mad are actually ghosts. They are disembodied spirits. The real person is no longer in that body. If you ask a madman what is his name, he cannot tell you, because it is not the same person that used to be inside the body. You get the point? So Srila Prabhupada used the example of madman and a devotee or saintly person as example of happy people in this world, because they actually don't care about the material conditions, right? Now, another point, the second point about whether the mad person actually feels pain. That's why I'm saying I don't know whether Prabhupada used that example for pain, because here in Africa, and especially in Yoruba culture, they have a saying that Cain is the husband of a mad person. So once somebody is acting mad, you should just get some good cane around. They won't like it. As soon as you start caning them, they submit. So, so if you say that they don't feel pain, but what they use to control mad person is cane, because that body doesn't like pain. What the ghost does not like pain, but the ghost can live in any condition as he wants, because he's really thirsty, hungry, sleepy, and he needs a body he can use for that. But then when you start inflicting pain on him, he will submit immediately and do whatever you ask him to do. So it is very difficult to say that they do not feel pain, but they are very much detached, like a saintly person, because they both saintly person and madman both realize they are not the body. The ghost who is habiting a mad person's body knows that it's not that body, it's just using that body. Just like a saintly man also knows that it's not the body. So both of them are very much detached and they are happy in this world. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Shimara Prabhu. Yes,
Thank you.
What you just said is factually true, but it is not the complete truth at the same time, in the sense that there are some human bodies that have been captured by other subtle spirits that use the human body for whatever they want to do, because as subtle bodies, they do not have physical gross bodies. Our Gurudev Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj explains much details of this phenomena in one of his books, Spiritual Warrior 1. There are these, excuse me to say, two kinds of people who do not feel pain. Like I said, Srila Bhaktipada used to say, the materialists, the karmists, consider devotees to be mad, and the devotees also consider the materialists to be mad. Now, because those who are very much advanced, they do not feel pain, the mad people who are also the lowest in terms of mental acuity do not feel pain. But the difference is that the pure devotees know that they are not the bodies. The mad, the real actual lunatics do not even know that they are not the body. That is the difference. The pure devotees know that they are not the bodies. The mad people do not know that they are not the bodies. Now,
can I cut you short? Sorry, please. When exhausted, trying to deliver somebody
check your audio. Your audio is not very clear.
Okay, sorry.
I see it all right now.
Okay, good, very good, yes.
Right. When exorcists of any type, of any tradition, whether Christians, whether Abbalists, when they're trying to deliver somebody who has been possessed, you hear the mad person or the possessed person saying, I'm leaving, I'm leaving, I will leave. I've experienced this personally. They called me to help somebody. And the guy was saying, yeah, leave, I will go, I will leave the body. I will leave the body. So, and you said that they don't know that they are not the body. So that's why I cut in. When the body is possessed by ghosts or other bodies, they know that they are not the body. Definitely, they know that they are not that body.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Anyway, that's the contribution.
All right. Thank you. Like I said, there are many different angles to this topic because one, if it is a psychic phenomena, it's a different story. If it is a mental health condition, it's a different story. So there is a psychic phenomena where a human's body may be hijacked by another stronger subtle force. So yes, that particular force in that human body knows that that body does not belong to him or her. He's just come in to rent that body. But there is another type of madness, which is not as a result of any other subtle entity renting the body, but it is just because there is a problem with the brain function of that individual. And so there are so many diseases in this world that are mental problems that people go through. We see like people who go to, who have psychiatric problems and they get treated by attending to psychiatry. You go to the psychiatry ward where they treat mental. We have one of our god sisters, Chidi Shakti. She is a medical doctor. And what she specializes in is psychiatry. So in psychiatry, there is a knowledge of how the human brain can be affected. And when it is affected, our way of reasoning, doing things also change. There is one movie called The Rose. If anybody gets the opportunity, please watch this movie. It's called The Rose. And if you watch this movie, then you have the heart of a human being, you have the brain of a human being, and you do not cry, I'll give you $500. It's a challenge I throw to each and every one. There is, now do not try not to cry because you want to have $500.
We'll capture your $500. We'll capture that more. Okay. Tell us the name of the movie very well. Tell us. What's the name?
The name is The Rose, like rose flower.
Okay.
Yes.
The R-O-S-E.
R-O-S-E. R-O-S-E.
Okay.
The
Okay.
Rose. If you watch this movie, it's just like there is this disease. It's in everywhere. It's all parts of the world, but it's more common in some parts of the world. It's called dementia, Alzheimer's disease. Dementia. When it starts, you start forgetting basic things, like you forget where you left your car keys, like you forgot where you left your shoes. And then slowly, you forget the days. Slowly, you forget basic things that you always used to. If you drive, you forget the route back to your house. This is the gradual growth of this disease. It gets to a point you do not know anybody other than your immediate family. When it becomes very intense, you do not even know your wife, you do not know your husband, you do not know your children, you do not know anybody. And it's a physical problem. It's a problem that affects the brain. And there's been research done where it shows the brain of someone who has this dementia and the brain of someone who does not have dementia. And you see clearly under the object that has been used to study this brain, whatever scope that has been used, you see a portion of a particular part of the brain which is defective. And as such, it's causing problem to the individual to reason, to think. And that is why whenever a certain pain medicine is given, scientists have been able to discover that if we just close this part of the brain which is sensitive to pain, then you feel no pain. That is all pain medication does. All what pain medication does deals with the mind, is that the medicine goes into your body and it goes and have some sort of effect at a particular part of our brain and then shut it off. And once that part of the brain is shut off, then you feel no more pain. And so, yes, there are two types of madness. There are those that are as a result of psychic phenomena, and those beings, those are those from subtle beings that possess the physical body of a human being on this earth planet. And this embodied being seizes the body of this particular living person and uses it the way he wants or she wants to use it. That is a different aspect. And then there is a mental or health condition that stops the brain from functioning normally. And so that's why I said what Srimad Prabhu said is correct, but it is half the cake. The other side of the cake is the physical aspect to the human brain. And that is why psychology is very, very important in our spiritual life. Krishna himself says that one should liberate himself by the power of the mind. One should liberate himself by the power of the mind. There are many things we do, many things we do not do, all because of what our mind is telling us. So when the mind, that is why we chant the Hare Krishna mantra, because when we chant the mantra, it is going to deliver our mind from being crazy to being sane. So yes, what Srimad Prabhu is saying is very common, and especially if you are a Krishna devotee who has been on Harinam, you've encountered this experience many times where people are possessed. They are not the original person who is occupying that body. That original occupant of that body is now with another unwanted, uninvited occupant in that body. And they share the body. And therefore, sometimes the actual occupant of the body realizes what is going on and can relate with you. And some other times is the other uninvited occupant using the body. So you're talking to him, he doesn't recognize you. The very person who knew you, that you also knew, you're talking to him now, like I know Govinda Prabhu. But when my body is hijacked, and whoever hijacked my body is the one using the body at the time, I see Govinda, I do not know him because that particular entity does not know Govinda. Now, at a point when that particular being possessing my body steps aside a little bit and the original occupant starts using the body, then I see Govinda, and then I recognize him. So you may say, why didn't you recognize me 10 minutes ago? Because that was not the actual occupant of the body at the time. But there is another side to the story where somebody is not being intruded upon, but his own mental problem is faulty, and therefore he's sick, cannot see, cannot feel. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Sriman Sahadeva Prabhu.
You were not paying attention, Salika Prabhu.
Well, that is by power, the potency that I have, that I can hear with one ear 10 speakers at the same time.
Hare Krishna.
But this topic about the ghost and the occupants of the body is a very broad subject matter. my concern here is that it's been 2 hours, our normal time here. So that's why I'm waiting for you to round up that explanation.
Yeah.
I think we'll have to call it a day here, and then maybe in the future we'll continue to discuss much about this. Thank you very much, everyone, for your participation and contribution in the subject matter. Thank you very much, Sriman Sahadev Prabhu, for the beautiful explanations and examples that you have given. So at this point, we'll request all of the devotees to please kindly unmute themselves. Sorry, we request all of the devotees to kindly unmute themselves. Let us loudly chant a powerful Hare Krishna mantra to appreciate the speaker for today's grace, Sriman Sahadev Prabhu.
Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Hare.
Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Rama,
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Panchakarpatarubhyaschya kripa sindhubhya shivascha patitanam
Namo
Venkatoti
Namaha.
Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Jai Gaura Piminande. All glories to Sangu devotees. All glories to Sisi Guru and Guru and Guru.
Hare